Hi everyone, it's Steve. Hope you're keeping well. I just wanted a bit of a follow-up based on things that have been going on over the weekend that people are starting to talk about. And everyone's been talking about, unfortunately, the knife crimes, people feeling safe when out and about, not just women, occasionally men as well. Should there be curfews in place? I just wanted a little bit of a talk on that one on this video tonight. From my experience, what we tend to find is that education is the key thing, and that's a lot of things it's all about. But the problem is who can provide that education, and that's, I think, the biggest problem that's out there. Who understands what needs to be taught? How do you get in front of those that need to listen? Being down in Devon and Cornwall, what I tend to find an awful lot is people think they know right, they always know what's best. Those who need education to change their ways often aren't receptive to learn, they don't want to listen, they're not interested in coming and finding out ways to become a better person. Where does this come from? Is it from people's social circles? Is it upbringings? I don't have the answer. I don't think any of us do necessarily have the answer. Is it the shift in society that has changed with different generations? That's what's causing it. Couldn't necessarily tell you that. What we also do know, well, from my point of view, also those who often need help learning to be safer when out and about, so not feel so much potentially unsafe or feel so vulnerable, are those who often won't come and seek the information help. Often being scared to walk through a door because they don't know what's going to be involved or whether they're going to benefit from going along, I think is often a key problem. So I meet a lot of women who talk about needing things but won't come along to where they can learn more. I saw an interesting post on social media earlier on talking about education from a martial artist, and the key thing that I very much learned a few years ago was learning to understand reasonable force, what's necessary, what's practical, what's proportional, and learning from that point of view, which changed things. So in my background, I got involved properly into martial arts in 2003. I've had my own club for, this will be 11 years this year, in a couple of weeks. And I know very much a lot of my training. We weren't talked about what was reasonable force, what was proportionate, what's necessary, what you can legally do, what you can't legally do, that type of thing. It wasn't until I tried to add in some more tutoring topics to some of my side work outside of martial arts, doing things like breakaway training, and then I started learning about the legal aspects, the law that impacts on it, and obviously I've spoken about some of those on some of my other videos that I've got up there, where they sit within the UK. But often a lot of people don't know the law and understanding. I was teaching a breakaway course this morning and taught people stuff that they weren't necessarily aware of. They thought they had a rough idea of what was going through, but clearly tried to spell out what the law says you can and cannot do, and help you justify and understand where that meaning is. But often reaching out to those who need to learn and understand those things, give them the skills to become more aware when they're out and about, to keep themselves safe and to keep others safe and make others feel more comfortable. It's often hard to reach out and meet with those people, reach them and show them. And I know very much living in Devon Cornwall, people think they're often very safe down here. We have a low crime rate, you're not like to issue, but what I do say to people is, where do you tend to go away on holiday to? If you take a weekend away, who goes to places where there is a possibility where you might feel unsafe or uneasy when out and about? Do you end up going to places where things like knife crime, gun crime are quite high, which you would think of not down here? But I will sort of surprise you. I heard a number of stories of knife incidents within Plymouth, which is a city about 30 minutes away from where I'm based with a lot of my classes. I do a lot of teaching out there. Something that's not covered a huge lot, but people aren't aware of. I look at the local newspaper for the Plymouth area over the weekend. What do we have in there? Someone being attacked by somebody with an axe. There was also another part of the city over the weekend where a lady was attacked as well in the city centre. And people think these things don't happen, but these are places where people often go to on nights out, on days out, where you could come across these situations. And so people often think it's not going to be me. Yet when we look at things, was it 1 in 4 adults will suffer some form of violent assault in their lifetime? Females, 1 in 4 female will suffer domestic abuse. 1 in 6 males will suffer domestic abuse. We had a video the other week that I did, which talked about the studies from Canada and a story in The Independent where it talked about sexual harassment within the university setting. And we look at these things that do happen, but how do we reach out and educate people and change the mindsets when often the people who need to learn, need to change for positive or from a negative point of view, as in positive, those becoming less vulnerable, becoming less likely to become a victim from positive, and from a negative point of view is trying to change those outdated attitudes and behaviours within people to stop some of these things that happen. How do we get in front of them when people think they know best, they don't need things? How do we get them into it? And that's the biggest challenge when it comes down to things. And that's the hardest bit. We can have debates, we can have vigils, but they don't necessarily change a lot. And I don't think there's a huge lot that the government can do from a law point of view. It's difficult trying to get in front of people and saying, well, actually, these are things that you need to know. But again, the one thing I find with it is, how do you get in front of people when people think they know better or they don't need it, or are willing to come out because they're afraid to go through the door because they don't know what's going to go through. But the thing you've got to remember in life is, until you take that step to that door, you open your ears and seek to understand from others, not to be understood yourself. That's a time where we can grow most as a person. And remember, if we're not growing and outgrowing our thoughts, our movement patterns, our beliefs, then technically we are dying as individuals. So it is important that we do try to update our knowledge, our understandings, our thoughts on topic areas. So just some little things for you to think about there, and I will put some links to some of the articles about some recent issues below, so you can have a bit of a look at and see that these things do happen. And maybe I can be somebody who can help you understand and change some ways you think and believe, maybe help you become less likely to become a victim and help. And I'd like to do that. So please feel free to reach out to me and I'll see what I can do to help. Thank you for watching.